All right, guys, we're live. What is up? The Rule Zero gang coming at you, talking about why so many billionaires are plugged in beta men. This is going to bring up some dialogue and discussion, I'm sure. Some people will agree, some will disagree. But yeah, how you guys all doing today?
Very good.
So far,
Very
so good.
man.
Awesome.
Yeah. You
Awesome.
still in Moscow, eh, Troy?
Yeah, I've been sort of back and forth. I was in Poland. No, sorry, I was in Berlin last week, and then I came over here for a few days because I had a few loose ends to tie up. Let's just say.
Are you going to make a permanent move out there? Or is that?
I don't know. We've got an English friend who lives out here actually, and he's introduced us to some other expat English guys, and they had just having a great time. They absolutely love it. So it is possible, and there are ways to do it. So I'm probably going to have a look at it. We're thinking next year, maybe spending a bit more time, maybe like 3 months here or something.
Cool,
it's just a great place.
So this is something that's been bugging me for a while, and I ran into this about 4 or 5 years ago in a second entrepreneurs group that I was a part of, and I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to frame it just to kind of kick off the show. So this is a private men's group, and we're doing retreats and holding each other accountable, and most of them are like 7-8 figure businesses, so they're doing anywhere from like on average $5 to $50 million a year in annual sales. And there's a private group, and there's discussion that comes out, stuff, and of course, because we are men, we talk about women, obviously. And there was a guy at one point that was making an announcement that he was getting married, and I chimed in. This is just, as I'm kind of like done my divorce, and I've read Rollo's book. I think it was around the time that I read Rollo's first book, and I was like, yeah, dude, you probably want to make sure you get yourself a prenup on this one just to make sure you're protected. And then the entire fucking group came at me like flies, like moths to a flame. It was like, how dare you say these things, and why can't you just trust the women and all that sort of stuff. And at this one fucking guy who purported to be he wasn't a licensed psychologist, but he purported to work in the space. I mean, I looked him up to see what his credentials were, and he really wasn't. But he just fucking came, like he threw everything at me, right? And I was like, okay, I'm clearly in the wrong room here, so I'm just going to get out of this room because I'm not down with this crowd. And I just ended up leaving and quitting the organization. And a couple of guys, DM me afterwards, like, why did you say that? Why did you do that? You need to kind of cool it down. And it's like, I'm like, no, like, why do I got to water myself down in what I know is factual and true? I mean, the stats are half of men that go through divorce will lose half their shit, right? So it's like, we're not making anything up here. This is not fairy tales and rainbows. And I was like, I was blown away at that time. That was like during my initial unplugging process, very, very early on. And, that's when I started, to connect with Rollo and Ryan, the other guys as well. And I've started to notice more and more of it because at the price point that I do my bookings at for my one-on-one consults, I'm generally dealing with entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, like people that are high income earners. They've got a net worth of 7 to 8 figures. And a lot of them are all very plugged in. In fact, some of them are worse off than even some of your average Joes that are making, $60,000 a year doing the corporate job. Like they'll buy into all kinds of narratives. Like I've heard guys tell me stories about, like women that they bent over backwards to because they told them lyrics about shrines that they built, and they prayed to God that they were going to, send him the right guy, and only to find out she's banging other guys behind his back during the time of the long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these, like, it's very surprising that a lot of these really, really, successful guys that can put a dent in the universe, build massive, corporations, employ hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people are still plugged into society's comforting lies. Let me share this other thing that popped up. I actually got this from Drew Bay. You guys know who Drew is, right?
Oh yeah.
So Drew sent me this. Can I put it up on the screen? Did I save it here on my desktop? Here it is. Okay. Let's see if this pops open. So here it is. Yeah. So he sends me this screenshot, and I've cropped out the guy's name at the top because I don't need to drag him into this because he's probably going to cry about it or something. Share screen, share window, boom. So you guys have seen this tweet that I've put out, right? If you remove sex from a relationship, you'll discover that 90% of women have nothing to offer to men in relationships. Conversely, remove his money, success from relationships, and you'll learn that 90% of women don't see a reason to be in said relationship. This offends a lot of people. I didn't make this up. I mean, this is basically a collection of sound bites from a lot of stand-up comics. You guys know that I've talked about, you know, my fondness for stand-up comedy. There's a lot of factual truth behind it. It's very interesting to kind of unpack it from a red pill lens, but there's not a lot of guys in our space that would argue with this, right?
Pretty uncontroversial.
Yeah, it's not very controversial, you know, for us, but I'm just going to read this out over here because some of you may be listening or, you know, not able to see the screen because it's on a mobile, but he says, years ago, this guy was a Facebook friend of mine. He puts friend in quotations, and right now we have over 40 mutual friends. So this particular entrepreneur, without giving it away, so he runs one of the biggest websites in the health, wellness, and research space in nutraceuticals and basically in medicine, probably in the top 5. It's a big name. Like if you're anywhere close to the space, you would recognize the name. So he's like, and he was also in that organization. Everybody freaked out when I said, hey, you know, you probably want to get a prenup. People love moralizing on how you shouldn't end friendships with people who you disagree with. By the way, I unfriended all of these nerds after I left the group. So he's acting like, you know, he's like, ditch me. Anyway, you shouldn't end friendships with people who you don't disagree with. But I ask you, if a person has these kinds of values, why would you want to be friends with them? I don't know about you, but I prefer minimizing toxic things in my life, including garbage humans. This guy's probably worth about 8 figures. Okay. Dude is loaded. So this is like a little bit of an intro to kind of segue into this to sort of like, you know, get into our own talking points and discussion. But what's your experience, guys, been with, you know, ultra successful, wealthy men and their position versus, you know, plugged in versus unplugged?
Same thing as broke guys. For some reason, money and women, no overlap whatsoever.
Right. I get in trouble with this topic occasionally because I think a lot of people who have a lot of money think that because they have the money, that they must be doing something right. Right. It's hard to. I've dealt with some very wealthy men in my life, working for and working with. The guys that one of the guys that I used to work with in the import export in the liquor business was a very wealthy guy, and then he was also kind of working with the guys who were in the second largest distributing company of wine and spirits, and these guys have like this. That's like real. That's the first time I really encountered like people who have like society changing money, or could if they wanted to. Like, I mean, they're pushing. They're not just like, oh, I've got like, you know, $10 million in the bank account because I'm a rock star or a movie star or something. Like these guys are moving hundreds of millions of dollars around, and there's a difference. That was when I sort of made the distinction between wealth and like just being a rich guy, right? I have dealt with casino GMs for most of my gaming career, and then some very wealthy guys in my other aspects of my, you know, my previous career and my current career, actually. But the one thing I've noticed amongst all of them is that there's this presence that if I'm doing something, I must be doing it right, because look at all the money that I have. So if I had, like, I made this case in a video not too long ago about Joe Rogan, for example. Joe Rogan is worth $100 million. That's what he sold his YouTube channel for over to Spotify for. And so no matter what Joe does, $100 million covers a lot of sins, right? It doesn't matter what he does. Hey, he's got $100 million, so who cares, right? It doesn't matter if he completely turns, you know, does a 180 on whatever. I don't expect him to do that. But if he did, people would just say, well, he must be doing something right because he's got $100 million. And I think that when you apply that to intersexual dynamics, when you apply that to a guy like Jeff Bezos, for example, right? It's like, who cares? Like, this is a guy who could have a new chick every night of the week if he wanted to. He could have just this nonstop stream, this line of escorts waiting to go bang him any night he wants to. And yet, who does he choose to be in his life after his divorce with Mackenzie Bezos? Lauren Sanchez. And why is that? And I use that as the thumbnail for today's topic. But the reason for that is because the guys like that are insulated. It's almost like a really good-looking girl doesn't understand why things work for her, right? Or if you've got a girl who doesn't understand why men aren't attracted to her because she has a degree, she's got her own business, and she's got all this, so that you can't really tell her, like, you know, the reason why guys don't want to get with you is because you spent all this time building up this sort of career and this ego and this money and this power base that you think should be attractive. You can't tell them that. And the truth of the matter is she spent all this time focusing on just being that career alpha female, and now she doesn't understand why guys aren't attracted to her. It's kind of like an analogous situation for guys like who are ultra wealthy guys who don't understand the basics of women, who don't understand female nature, don't even really understand their own nature, and to go and say you're a blue pill beta. You know, you don't understand. You're going to be taken to the cleaners because you don't have a fundamental understanding of your own nature, women's nature, and the game that you've been in. Money is wealth, whatever, even status, power, whatever, is not an insulation against blue pill thinking. Just like you're saying, like I was looking at this tweet here, Rich. Like that's the level of dedication these guys have to that blue pill that blue pill conditioning, right? They don't care about anything else. They're ready to cut you off and kick you out and unfriend you and everything else, because that virtue signaling means more to them than any kind of networking that they could have with you.
I went a little bit deeper on this one because, I mean, the thing that's interesting about most of these guys that have created these businesses, you've got granted, I've never met Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Page, Elson, Buffett, Zuckerberg, like none of these guys, Gates. But the thing that's interesting about these guys, and the ones that I can specifically say that I've met personally, is they're very good at their craft. Like there is absolutely no question that they're high net worth and individuals. What's the other soundbite we hear a lot about? Like high value men. There's a lot of guys out there today beating their chest, calling themselves high value men, who are nowhere even close to it. But these guys are legitimately those people. They've created incredible businesses and done wonderful things for the world and improved the status of the world for us all, the world that we live in. And it's like they've done that because they've thought outside of the box. If Steve Jobs didn't think out, like he didn't even have outside of the box thinking, Steve Jobs had not even seen the box thinking. Same with Gates, same thing with Zuckerberg, same thing with Bezos, same thing with Musk. Like if you follow their biographies, like if you read any of their biographies, and I've covered about 9 out of 10 of them there, I've read them all personally, or I've either read or listened to them. They've all been outside of the box thinkers. They've unplugged from the world of business. They've unplugged from the world of making money. But
I'm a great race car driver. Why can't I play chess? Why can't I rap?
Well, it's not quite the same thing, because I mean, like race car driver and chess is two slightly different, genres. But
so is women and money.
But why can't they? Money's different. It's unplugging from lies. It's unplugging from just go get the job. Clock in, do your work, clock out, be a good droid. Get your Casio watch when you fucking retire and go home and shut up and collect your pension. I'm talking about unplugging from societal lies and conventional norms, because that's really what I see. The red pill and unplugging as. You're unplugging from just be a nice guy, bend the knee to her, happy wife, happy life, and all that sort of shit.
Dude, I don't
so
think...
why can't they unplug from those lies and see the sexual marketplace and women for what it really is? That's what I find really interesting, because they're so good at it with creating a business and solving those problems, but they're unwilling to look at the code in the matrix for what it is.
Well, do you think he would have shit on you, Rich, if he knew you were wrong? He would just be like, whatever, and shrug it off. I don't, and I got a theory that I don't think these guys think you're wrong. I don't think that they are so deluded with their blue pill life that they'll fight it off. I think there's a part of them that knows this is right. You're not wrong. But there's like an impotence to it. There's like an admission. Let's say you're 40 years old, made your $1 million.
Oh yeah, there was lots of guys that like DM me after the fact and they're like, "Hey, you're not wrong, but why are you talking about these things? Like, why are you pressing it?"
But you know what it is? It's like you're not asking them to accept this stuff. What you're saying is, I want you to admit that your last 40 years when it came to women were a waste. And I think a lot of guys, especially money-making champions that got tons of ego, you're asking them to take a big step outside of their ego. And they've worked very hard at that ego, and they've earned that ego. And it's like, who the fuck are you to tell me I'm wrong? And I know it's a weird self-sabotagey way to go about it, but like we're just meat-brained monkeys with slightly higher IQs than bonobos.
Right. And my bank account affirms everything that I do. So
and by admitting
if I believe this, it must be right.
I wonder
Yeah,
if
and
it's
if
because they
I
get to the point
agree
where they've
with
got
you,
so
then
much
it's
money,
wrong,
all I
then
have to
what
do
else
is
is
keep
wrong?
throwing money at it to solve the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I can't get a girl to stay
Or
with
is
me.
it-
I'll just keep buying shit, or I'll put her
Well,
on
I
a
mean,
yacht,
what
or
was
I'll
it?
fly
What was
around
the
the world.
joke? The joke when Bezos got divorced, like to the tune of like what $33 billion was like.
Yeah.
It cost him $33 billion for his divorce, and he's still the richest guy in the world.
Yeah, there's still, there's still people that say, that Jeff and Bill got divorced to dodge taxes, and I don't know, maybe there's some tax benefits.
Might be some
to
truth
it,
in that.
maybe, but I don't know that that's a good strategy.
Well, I even if whether it's true or it's not true, I would also argue that like I think a lot of these guys carry that blue pill understanding of women from their previous lives over into their very rich lives.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a qualifiable difference between somebody like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos and somebody who has like played the game, or maybe he came into money and then he developed that money. And it understands and can play and understands women's nature and his own nature as well. But if you look at a guy who has sort of come from like, a computer background or a coding background, and they were once beta, but then they became very, very rich, and they're still basically rich betas, they have such an insulation and such a resistance to listening to anything else because they're basically just focusing on one thing, which is whatever it is that's going to make them money. That's the Bill Gates, plan for success, is just like be single-minded about one thing and go straight ahead. And then what gets me is later on in life, then you have these guys who want to give you like these they suddenly become philosophers of life. Like, here's my secret to success. And it's like, you don't have the lived experience to really be talking about like how women are and how men are. I read this, somebody sent me a quote right before this show about Warren Buffett. I think it was in his autobiography or something like that, where he was talking about his wife that he met. And I think he got married to her within like the first like 2 months of meeting her or something. I don't know exactly the whole thing, but he moons over her, and it's like, oh, I just knew she was the one, first thing. And it's like, wow, this is Warren Buffett, who is essentially reinforcing a lot of these blue pill beta things. I think, Rich, one of the things that was rubbing your guys the wrong way is making it public. Because if you go and you say something like that and you do it on a big stage, that's their brand. And so when women see something like that, or guys who are still plugged into the matrix see something like that, it's almost like maybe I'm wrong in this, but like,
I wonder how many of their wives or girlfriends were looking.
Yeah, exactly. How much of that is like trying to sort of make their necessity a virtue?
Yeah,
like,
I think it's absolutely that, isn't it? It's absolutely that, isn't it? And also, just I think what you said before, Rollo, about focus. I mean, I think a lot of these guys, if you look at Zuckerberg, for example, I mean, he wasn't really out playing the field, was he? I mean, he was a sort of geeky guy, coder or whatever, and then he, developed Facebook. And I mean, my sense is probably with these guys, they're so single-mindedly focused on the thing that created their wealth that they just don't really have a lot of experience. It's not so much that they're not intelligent or they're not perceptive enough to understand some of this stuff. It's just that they just probably just don't look at it. They have a girlfriend who becomes a wife or whatever, and it's just not a massive part of their life to really sort of analyze or interrogate.
One of the things that's really interesting about Zuckerberg that I noticed is like, in his early years, like he was pretty alpha, like he was alpha as fuck, right? Like he basically stole a lot of the code for Facebook from the Winklevoss twins.
I don't think that's alpha.
Right.
I think it's Weasley.
Well,
he was quite dark
but he was
triad, wasn't he?
unapologetic about it, right? He was like, screw this, like I'm doing this, man. And he just like,
but he's on his game, man. That's his hustle.
He's quite dark triad, wasn't he? Really, if you watch that movie, what was it, The Social Network? He comes across as very sort of Machiavellian, sort of dark triad in that.
Yeah, and
he's a weasel though. He's definitely not alpha.
Yeah, but
he's not alpha. That's like that's backstabbing beta shit.
So like one of the things that John and I were talking about a week ago, we were just shooting the shit over a quick call, and I said to him, basically the opening, I know he kind of hopped in after we opened, but I know he knows what we're talking about here. I'm like, can you name one billionaire that is an alpha male that's unplugged from, society's lies? And we couldn't really come up with anything.
What about,
we said like Dan Bilzerian? I'm like, but what's he worth? A couple hundred.
What about
million?
You can say his name without people going, he buys his chicks.
Who's that?
What about John McAfee? What about the late John McAfee? He was a billionaire, wasn't he?
Yeah, no.
Virgin guy. What's his name? Branson?
I don't think he was a billionaire, but I think he was quite up there. But
very
I would say
wealthy.
this.
Branson was when he was younger, for sure. Like if you read Branson's biography, for sure he was when he was younger, maybe up until about the age of 30, 35. But I think that there's an argument too, like when a lot of these guys get married, we know their testosterone levels drop. They get henpecked or cucked to some degree. It's like, to what degree are you going to be, pecked and like chopped down a few notches? So that's going to change their personality. Vince McMahon's a good example. Okay, so what about him? Because he's worth a couple of $1 billion, right?
Vince is a boss. He's a billionaire. So what's the thing we're saying here? Like, why are so many
so many
billionaires
like wealthy men plugged in betas?
Like, so we're talking about betas or red pill and alpha? What's the difference here?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just kind
Blue
of
pill
roll with
chumps.
it? Yeah, like blue
Okay.
pill chumps, like average frustrated chumps. For the most part.
I'll
when it
tell you
comes
this,
to, like outside of money and chasing excellence.
One of the feathers in my cap is I have red pilled a mate of mine who is worth in the deca millions, and he is an insufferable douche. Like to tell him anything. And when I met him, I didn't know who he was, and I don't really care if somebody has money or not. I just like talk to him as a man. And I was just like, listen, dude, you're a fucking dork, and you're real creepy when you do these certain things. And I was like, this is why you're failing. And I was like, you're a boomer. Like, he's not. He's like in his early 40s. But I'm like, dude, you're a boomer. Like the way you think about girls, the way you communicate with them, the way you text. I was like, I called him the rainbow F-bomb, quite frankly. I was like, dude, you're acting like a damn rainbow F-bomb. And I was like, girls are not going to respect this, and they're not going to be turned on by this. Like, you saw about this. You maybe saw this was on like CNN or something, like How to Treat a Woman, but this is not how it works. And I had to like consciously beat this into his head over a series of months till finally he got fed up. He got on Tinder, and he was just very direct with his seduction, and he scored himself a really hot 19-year-old. And I was just like, yeah, dude, because you've been a weird, creepy, like beta boomer your whole life. And like, yeah, that works in your corporate world where you know how it is in corporate. You got to be fake. You got to be backstabbing. You got to be devious. You got to like pretend to be somebody you're not the entire time. I was like, that doesn't work with chicks. Like, they're going to sniff that out like within the first date. But it's just so hard to tell these guys anything. And another thing is this too. I think like what he interpreted as disrespect when I met him, I was just like, no, you're wrong. Right? Because when you're a millionaire, when you're a multimillionaire, people know you have money, people know you have power, they bow down to you. You get surrounded by yes men.
So yes, all the time.
Everything. I think I buy this girl flowers. Yeah, man, it was great on Titanic. I think I should. I think I should do this. I think I should do that. And literally, there's a 99% chance when you're talking to a guy and getting dating advice for him, he is blue pill. There's literally a 99% chance.
Yeah.
So, that's what happens with these guys. And I think that's why they get in a lot of trouble, because then they start, like, I think a perfect example is this tech lead guy, that like weird Chinese.
Yeah, I've actually talked with that guy before, but yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
He's like an insufferable beta with a power trip, right?
I actually tried to get him on my show because he mentioned some of my stuff in a couple of his videos, and people sent me the videos.
That dude's
and I
all
DM'd
brand.
him, and he's like, "Nah, I don't."
He's
really
all
think
brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure, Rollo. But I can tell that guy's a real twerp in real life. I could just tell by the way he acts. And it's like, no wonder you got taken to the cleaners with your woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more of a bitch you are, the more your woman's going to punish you when she breaks up. And so that's why she fleeced him up and
nice
down.
Guys get destroyed in breakups.
She took his kid to Japan, man. She bailed like here today and then gone tomorrow, man.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, you can't have that conversation, with men when you're trying to offer them some level of protection in their lives. Like, hey, like, there's some fucking landmines out there that you can step on, and here's a roadmap that you might want to look at so you don't step on them. Oh no, they lose their shit.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get past that because, again, they're so ingrained in their belief systems too. Because
some of the worst.
Yeah, because they've been telling people you're wrong their entire life. That's why they're rich, right? But in this sense, like, it's a completely different skill set. Just because you can make millions of dollars, still doesn't mean those principles are going to apply to female nature. One of the most complicated thing you could do with your entire life is to figure out women and fucking have a successful womanizer life. And then I think personally, like, that's why a lot of these guys, I I think that's why a lot of these guys they just get so rich because honestly speaking, do you think Steve Jobs would have been as productive? Elon Musk would have been as productive if he was like me. He just always had 4 girls on the phone ready to roll. Just like I pick you up, hey, come baby. Hey, come.
Elon Musk is a really good example of that too, because if you look at the women that have been in his life for as long as like he's with this, is he still with Grimes right now? I think he probably still is. Yeah,
Grimes
if
the
you
flavor
look
of the
at
year.
his dating history or his like women history, it's like wow,
It's fucking atrocious, man.
yeah. And
I
the
think he's
reason
been
for
married
that is
like 3
because
times, like twice to the same woman.
wasn't he with Amber Heard for a while too?
He was, yeah.
He sniffed that one out.
And I
Wow.
did
Talk about
a
dodging that
video.
bullet.
And I did
Right.
a video on Elon Musk because I think it was Neil Strauss that did an interview on him, and I kind of broke down the interview.
I remember that.
And a lot of people lost
Rolling
their
Stones
shit. Like,
one.
like, how dare you talk about Elon Musk that way? He's my hero. And it's like, whoa, hold on a second, dude. Like, I'm just like holding up a mirror and just reflecting back some facts here, right? Like, these are all factual things that happen. Like, he was curled up in a ball during the interview, basically crying because he couldn't keep it together. Because he didn't understand female world class at building fucking electric cars, raising money, sending rocket ships into space. But with women and his personal life, I mean, like look at who he's invited into his personal life. A woman named Grimes.
Yeah.
Have you guys like seen the backstory with Grimes?
Yes. Well, another good example is also if you look at like a guy like Anthony Bourdain, for example, when he ended up committing suicide, and I believe it was back in 2018. I did a series of shows with Pat Campbell back then, and we were talking about that. And when I brought up Anthony Bourdain, I said he was very blue pill when it came to women, right? People just ran me up the flagpole. You don't know who he is. You don't know he's got more money than you're professionally jealous. And it's like this. I'm not attacking the dude. Obviously he's done something very constructive with his life.
Who was this?
Anthony Bourdain.
That guy's a fucking pussy.
Hey, my channel.
Well, he's not anything anymore.
Yes. Yeah, he's not anything anymore because because of the decisions and because of this. He was what I called a terminal beta. Right. He was so invested in that hope and that romantic ideal and that soulmate myth that, he went like all of his friends would say the same thing. They just did a documentary about him not too long ago. And his friends would say the same thing, that he wears his heart on his sleeve. Right. He really wanted to have like the love of his life. And of course, when you have that kind of money and when you have that kind of status, when you have that kind of fame and everything else that came with Anthony Bourdain, I don't think he was a billionaire, but he's certainly a millionaire. You become a target because women sniff that out. They go, wow, this is a guy who's stacked with money. He's got some fame. He's got some status. People want him. He's a hot item. He's a big fish. He makes a really good mark for women who understand what he represents. And those women are exactly the kind of women that he ought to be, steering clear of. Yeah, avoiding. But because he is so locked into that blue pill romantic ideal, he puts himself out there and he becomes very vulnerable to the point where a girl like Asia Argento, Satanist Asia Argento, witchcraft to Asia Argento, was the catalyst for him hanging himself because she was seen, by the paparazzi in Italy with her 29-year-old boy toy because she presumed that he was adult enough to handle a poly relationship or an open relationship. Apparently he wasn't. And that was when Rose McGowan, by the way, who's like been in the news recently because she's now the conservative little sweetheart. I always point this out. I say, how's Asia Argento doing, Rose? Because she jumped right to her defense when that happened. And I'm like, where's that question? Where are people talking about that now? Nobody is. But
what about a guy like Michael Saylor? As far as I can tell, he's never been married. Doesn't broadcast anything about a long-term relationship. He's red-pilled as fuck when it comes to money and like the economics because he's heavily invested in Bitcoin. I think he's worth like $1 billion and change.
Wow.
Yeah, he was.
That guy's unplugged for sure.
But I would say maybe not. He's never been tested.
I would say, he's unplugged financially, but look, I'm telling you, it's a completely different skill set, man. It's a completely different skill set. That's like saying, how many dudes do we know that are like, 5% body fat, jacked, like monitor every iota of a carb that goes into their system and haven't had sex in like 2 years, gym cells, right? It's just a completely different subset.
But I mean, John, we were talking, I think, just slightly before you came in about, can you think of any guys who combine both of the skill sets? Guys who are who get it as far as the sexual marketplace is concerned, but have also made a ton of money. Because it seems to be the consensus that actually there don't seem to be many.
Is that Italian dude on the boat, Rich?
Gianluca Vacci. He's got that 22-year-old girlfriend he just had a baby with.
Yeah, I'd say him.
I'm not sure that he's having a good time, but I'm not sure that he is. I suspect he's a romantic at heart.
Yeah,
he doesn't speak too much English, so I haven't seen too many interviews with him. I mean, he's certainly mental point of origin, puts himself first. He's got lots of bank. He looks pretty alpha. He knows how to run game with women. Is he fully unplugged? I don't know.
I would say romantic's like not a bad thing. It's just having game. Now, if he buys into it, that's a different thing, right? How he handles adversity. I've seen a lot of romantics that when push comes to shove, you don't want to fuck with them.
Oh yeah. No, he seems to be having a great time. Well, certainly until he got his girlfriend pregnant. I'm not sure.
I got one for you. So what about Vladimir Putin? Do you think he's an unplugged alpha? I would say yes.
He is. He's
definitely a billionaire too.
He's the richest man in the world. They think. You know that they think he's hide all his fucking money. You know that.
I would not be. I don't know if he's the richest in the world, but I know he's got He's got billions for sure.
Mm-hmm. Dude, he's got more bodies than Hillary Clinton behind him. He must.
What about Trump? He's dude's unplugged. He's red pilled. Is he unplugged alpha? What? No,
not red pilled. Not at all.
No.
He talks about it in his books that he prefers being married.
Well, he also prefers a lot of other things while he's married too, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I take that back. He is pretty based in his book. No, I do take that back actually. In his book, I just read "Think Big and Kick Ass in Business." Mm-hmm. He talks about and like blatant. He's like, I've screwed a lot of women in my life. A lot of women that are married. A lot of just like blatantly says, I screwed a bunch of women in my life. And the way he talks about chicks, he's pretty based too. But I think he got a little bit based as he got older because he had 3 failed marriages under his belt, I believe. Right, Ivanka, the American bitch, Marla, and then
Marla
now
Nichols.
Trump prior to becoming the president, really, I think even during the presidency, has always been very conscious of his brand. And as he got older, and once he decided he's got to be president, he's got to sort of put out this, I'm married, I've changed, I'm a mature guy now, I'm not like grabbing him by the pussy anymore. That's when he starts getting into, supporting women's issues and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, there's got to be a difference with some of these people between what they say in public and how they maybe really view things and how they really behave.
Right.
I'd say it's all of them.
Well, Anthony Bourdain was ostensibly very alpha before he put a noose around his neck because of Asia Argento. So
was he alpha though, or was he famous?
I think he was
not alpha.
Famous.
What was his? He had that.
No, I mean, even the perception though.
Yeah.
No.
But here's the thing, because Rich, remember when you were talking about the guy shitting on you for talking that thing about women, or Elon Musk and that? What was the answer people gave you? It was like, yeah, but look at how much money he made.
Yeah,
people are treating money like some kind of measuring stick to anything.
Yeah,
insulation.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. Like I'm talking more specifically about unplugging from the lies. Like a plugged-in beta is different from an unplugged alpha, right? And Elon Musk has more money than God. I mean, he's loaded. I mean, he could put all of his shit on a rocket, go to the moon, and set up a colony over there, and have like a harem of
he can get divorced 5 times and still be a billionaire if he loses half of his net income every time.
Exactly.
So he's like insulated from this. He doesn't even really need to care.
Yeah,
there's to be as hypergamous as possible, and he's like, whatever, I'll make another billion.
There's a super here from a guy that's talking about it being social engineering. Only selected people get to become billionaires, and they must be blue-pilled betas to set example for men.
I'm not sure about that. I think the people that become maybe not in all cases, but I think the people that become extremely wealthy are people who have managed to play the system to some degree. I think what Rich was saying, really, managed to sort of you've got to be pretty Machiavellian, haven't you, to get there? Do you know what I mean? To get that far. I don't think these guys are all. Some of them are for sure. I mean, some of the examples
most entrepreneurs that you'll get inside their head on, you realize that almost all of them are quite Machiavellian. They are
exactly. So I wouldn't say they're all these blue pill simps who society is put up to be role models. I don't buy that.
I got an interesting point here is that I think that when guys get to be you have to be on your game to be a billionaire, right? I mean, I mean, unless you like somehow just stumble into it.
It doesn't happen by
in
luck.
divorce, right? unless you're a woman and you get billions by divorce. Yeah, you probably have been, that's been your lifelong thing. The reason why you have those billions is because that's what you have exclusively focused on. And isn't that what most sort of success, gurus talk about? Just don't ignore women. What was it? Ignore women and acquire currency, right? That's the whole thing. Is just stay in your game, right? Just chase excellence, right? Just keep going. And at the exception of understanding women. And I have done at least 2 shows where I've talked about this before. Is like, I think that you can do both the same. I think you should be able to do both at the same time, because if you don't, you'll be at a severe disadvantage once you have that success, once you have that excellence, once you have that money. And we can see it here in guys who have a lot of money, and look at the choices that they make, or look how they get rolled by women, either putting a noose around their neck, or they get rolled to the tune of $33 billion because all they've ever done is focus on one thing. And that's the money aspect. Remember, make money, make muscles, learn game. All they do is say, you know what? Screw the rest of this shit. I'm just going to go and do and make money. That's all I'm going to do. And when they get to that point, they become a big mark, because the women, especially predatory women, especially women like Lauren Sanchez, sees the richest man in the world, and he's a blue pill beta chump, and he's having marital problems with his wife of God knows how long. And when they were kind of, coming up, and he was a dork and she was a dork, and now they're not dorks anymore. And so suddenly they're splitting up, and she sees that. Of course she is. That's like the biggest, juiciest, biggest fish a predatory woman can have, is that. And he's just waiting there like, oh yeah, this is the way I like it. This is what I want. Right. This is how I am. And
I got a point.
So is it because all they ever do is focus on one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say this, and here's the big part, because I know for a lot of guys at home, they're still trying to get their sex life figured out, so they may not deal with this. But when you have a woman in your life, and or multiple women in your lives, and they really love you, they start to sabotage you just a little bit.
Explain.
A little bit.
Well, I'm trying to be nice. We're on Rich's channel. I got to make it Disney for him.
Explain. Water down if you have to a little bit, but explain, because I'm not with you.
We're past the 30-minute mark. Go ahead.
No, I'm just shit talking to people who always talk shit about me in the comments section later. No, but no, like when you're so you're in a relationship with a girl, right? And she really loves you. Her perception of you, her love for you, she thinks like all other women see you the same way. And so women have this scarcity mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And so what they do is they start to give you that extra scoop of rice. They start to tell you, you don't need.
not
Oh, I
joking.
see what you're saying. Like, try to fatten you up a little bit.
They dress you like an idiot.
They get you fat.
Yeah.
They tell you. You and honestly, how much honestly?
Well, that's part of the
everybody
betatization through 1,000 concessions that I wrote about in that book, right?
Right, but in order to get betatized, you actually need the attention of a woman first.
Yeah,
a lot of these guys don't have,
that
right?
helps.
And so they have nothing, so they're like, okay, well, I can only beat my dick 6 times a day. I'm gonna go like learn to code now and like make pay, XPay and then sell it when it becomes PayPal. And now I'm gonna go to the rockets and in space and all that. For Elon's situation, right? Jeff Bezos, same way, right? He like just was sitting there. I mean, look at these guys were all super unattractive before they got money as well, right? Everybody misses out on Elon, like was literally bald before he got the hair transplant and sorted himself out. Bezos, the before and after billionaire, everything went viral with him, right? Because he got money, and money increases the quality of your life. You get better. But
I'm going to grab that picture of the before and after, because that's a really good point. So
do the Elon Musk one as well, the hair transplant.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
And so what I'm trying to say is this too, right? So in regards to these girls,
he has jacked up a little bit there.
Oh, he's definitely got on TRT for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. They will derail you because they already feel like, okay, well, he's too successful. Like if he gets more money, he's going to replace me, right? And
look at this dork. Look at this picture here compared to this guy on the right.
Oh,
okay, you got to give the guy some credit for this, though, right?
Yeah, I mean he has yoked up a little bit. Let's.
But that's surface layer, because now pull up a picture of fucking.
There's the old picture of Elon Musk, from the PayPal days with Peter Thiel, right?
Wow.
Yeah, there he is. Got the hair
With a
transplant.
hair
It's funny.
transplant.
Put that guy's picture. Like, we should make fake accounts of Elon Musk, like from that picture, and put it on like Tinder and see how many.
Look at this picture here of the Google founders. It looks like a freaking profile picture for Grindr or something.
Yeah.
But you know,
Kind of
girls will actively sabotage you, right? When I started, like, you know, getting some serious success with my YouTube channel and on like my courses and everything, you know, Miss MLD was like throwing temper tantrums in the middle of launches and stuff because, like, subconsciously she's like, this guy gets more money, he's gonna fucking leave me. And women are a constant source of drama and headaches, and the more you have them around, Troy, you know what I'm talking about. When you're juggling like 3-4 girls, you got them on the rotation. You know, dude, I got these girls in my life right now. There's a civil war, a silent civil war going on about who gets.
It's true, man.
Who gets the space in the bathroom?
Women invite drama with you all the time.
Who gets the space in the fucking?
I'm gonna
thing?
throw this bitch's toothpaste out.
No, leaving their hairpins around, leaving shampoo, this and that, constant like little cold civil war against the other girls, and I gotta deal with that in the middle of the whole thing, right? It does derail you. Also, like, honestly, how motivated are you after you bang 2 hot girls in the same day? You're like, I've won. I'm gonna lay down and like play Ghost of Tsushima, and like me, I'll have a slice of pizza today too, right? Because you're just like, I like every time the only reason I want to get ultra rich and successful is for women. 9 times out of 10, most guys, right? They like, Rich, do you like aspire to be like an ultra billionaire and super god now? No, because you have a good life, you have a good sex life, and you're totally kosher. Like, these guys, they don't, so they become like so focused and thinking that this is the only way to solve their problems to an extent. I think also they're a little bit off. They're a little bit psychopaths too. Like, you know, after you make, honestly, adjusting for inflation now, but I would say after you make $250,000 a year as a guy, US dollars, it's pretty much all the same. Like, it's like now you're like, okay, now I buy hoodies for $1,000.
Yeah, there's been studies on this. I think anything after about 80 or
75.
90,000 like USD now, it doesn't really change your happiness. I mean, it just gives you access to buy cooler shit. I mean, it's just your toys get more expensive.
Yeah. It's funny though, isn't it?
It's
funny, isn't it though, how there's the societal sort of meme that's gone around for centuries of you know, behind every great man is a strong woman, because it seems to me that the opposite is true, really. I mean, and no disrespect to the people involved, but I think all the girlfriends I've had have probably sabotaged me more than anything else, really. Do you know what I mean? I can't think of any that's really gone out to support me and to really help me to get where I wanted to get to.
I mean,
Would you want them to, though?
Like, think about it, right? Like, dude, these girls, let me tell you the level of psychopathy I'm dealing with, okay? These girls will go through my Instagram likes and be like, I saw this girl, she liked your photo 4 times. Who is such and such? I'm like, bitch, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you studying NFTs or investing in crypto? Like, what are you doing stalking the likes, like the 300, 400 plus likes on my Instagram?
She wants to make sure you're not moving your resources and attention to another woman. It's evolutionary, right?
Right.
Right,
Why
that's what I'm
women get
saying.
jealous. Women get jealous for a completely different reason than men get jealous.
And
Guys still
when you're
get
a rich
grief
guy,
for that one girl I had on the podcast 3 weeks ago.
When you're a super rich guy, or excuse me, when you're a super beta guy, you have no attention. None of these girls, you're happy if a girl even acknowledges your existence. You know what I mean? So they don't have to deal with this. Troy, you've dealt with it, right? How many times have you been sleeping, Troy, and girls gone through your phone, gone through your drawers? Whose hair is this? Whose hair is this? I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean?
Dude, they look at like fingerprints on like glass shower doors and mirrors. You know, they'll go through your garbage.
Yeah.
I've been looking at a wine glass. That's not my lipstick.
Yeah, I'm just like, listen here, fucking CSI. Like, what are you doing? Like, calm down.
Yeah. But especially when you're. Well, I think on some level of consciousness, like, women understand, like, whether you have the potential for success or you already are successful, there is that women are going to mate guard guys for a different reason than men will mate guard women. Like, men tend to, like, Brian, you know, this is like this, you know, research has shown that like guys get jealous if there's infidelity, like if a woman bangs another guy outside of the marriage or whatever, that guys are more that's more of like an egregious sin to guys because men are more invested in paternity. Whereas when a guy goes and he cheats on his wife or something, it's not so much the sex act as it is, are you in love with her? Is there an emotional connection?
Yeah,
because it's FOMO, right? It's fear of missing out. It's the idea that this oh no, my lifestyle is going to change, my long-term security is going to change, because again, women only have a very brief window in their history, 18 to 28 thereabouts, where they can attract and be arousing and get the attention of high value guys that they want to lock down. The rest of their lives, from like 30 until they're 80 or 90, that's going to be spent trying to secure long-term security. And so when they mix emotion, and they lead with emotion, when they mix emotion into the investment that they've made in that guy, they realize, I won't be able to get as high a quality guy as this dude again if I'm put out back into the sexual marketplace. Now, of course, there's social conventions that convince women otherwise, but that's the fear, and that's why women get jealous and they mate guard according to those standards, as opposed to guys going, I don't want anybody banging my girl.
And I do want to clarify this too, because a lot of guys listen to this and they think you're just talking about money. You're not. Yeah. It's not just about resources. Remember, for a girl getting married, that's a status flex. That first divorce now has become a status flex, which is fucked up. But yeah, just losing a man to a younger woman makes you look really bad to your peer group. That's a thing that terrifies women.
Yeah.
So it's not just so much like, how can I check out to get paid? No, if she checks out and she ends up being a worse person at the end, that matters more. That's why they hate losing out to these younger girls. It's like, you couldn't even keep your man loyal.
Yeah. So I've got a couple other names to throw at you: Dana White, Dan Pena, Gene Simmons. These guys, unplugged, red pilled.
Yes, Dana White. Yes,
Gene Simmons, absolutely.
Sure. Jesus Christ, that guy's a fucking animal. What was the other one?
Dan Pena.
Is Gene Simmons a billionaire? Maybe he is.
Probably.
Dan
probably from that reality show, if nothing else.
I'll ask him next week when I go watch Kiss down here, because they're coming to Reno.
I think Dan Pena is probably red-pilled. The way he talks about chicks, he's pretty based.
Yeah, definitely.
Dana White is for sure. Dana White's like lives to cheat on his wife.
Lives to cheat on his fighters too.
Yeah. But he like always has some room rented out in the Bellagio or whatever, where he's just running through these chicks. But I think going back to these guys, right? Because, none of us here know how to code, because we all had a sex life when we were younger.
Yes.
And when you're like, your mom pities you and your little nerd, she's like, I got your computer. And you're like, okay, I'll learn to code because I'm like I'm a biological rejection. And then it takes a certain amount of money for you to attract girls, regardless of how like repulsive you are, do your beta-ness and your neediness, because a lot of these guys are super creepy. Like that tech lead guy, look at that guy. That guy is creepazoid, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think they just stand the path and they keep making money, increasing the quality of their life. And then I talk about this on my show earlier this week. Like, when guys really don't get it with girls, it's the mystery of getting pussy that really keeps them going. It's like a gamble. Like, they're like in a slot machine. They're like, let me put in X event and pull this lever. Like, oh, I got some pussy, But when I go on a date now with a girl, I can read her body language. I can see how she's talking to me, how she's checking her phone, the way she's drinking, if she's going to be coming home with me or not within the first 30 minutes of meeting her. When you demystify it like that, you're like, the process really does lose its kind of allure.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this the other day, weren't we, when we were on that show on your channel? But it becomes very much a rote sort of process after a while. I mean, that maybe also partly from getting a bit older as well, because I've been doing this for bloody far too long now. Going.
But you're good at it. You understand it. I think that's the difference.
Better be at this point.
No, it's still terrible. No, but it's kind of like I was saying to John. I was on a date the other night with this girl in over in the shisha bar over here, and it was kind of like, you know what she's going to say, you know what you're going to say, you know the process that you have to go through. The whole thing is it becomes very mechanical, and it has been, and it has been for a long time. That's not to say that the thrill of the chase isn't still there to some degree, but it's not. It definitely loses it. But I can imagine if you don't have access, then that thrill is gonna be very, very extreme.
Let me just make reference back to that tweet that Elon Musk put out in the last year, and he just said, "Take the red pill." You guys all saw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like you could take it from the perspective, oh well, Rich are wrong. He's unplugged. He's taking the red pill. He's making a very bold statement. But if you look at the way that he responded to the backlash that he got from that, even from Grimes's mother, who basically shit all over him publicly. Yeah. Like, what do you guys think about that?
What was the backlash? Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, there was a lot of people that pushed back on that because they, associated that with him being like a alt-right or like a far-right sort of, Nazi and all that sort of stuff. And Grimes's mother basically publicly shit on him. I can't remember what she said exactly, but it was very disparaging. And he did a bunch of backpedaling, and I think he deleted the tweet, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't even think he knows what the fuck being red pill means. I think he said that because he knew it would piss people off, but then he got his feelings hurt by his fucking mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh, I got another one. I just thought of one.
You don't know the context of what he meant by the red pill, though, because
I don't think he understood the full context.
No, he doesn't. He didn't. I think he was.
That was around the time of the election, wasn't it? So he could have been talking about politics. He could have been talking about Trump and all of that stuff that was going on.
That's when he was moving. He was moving his gigafactory from California to Texas or wherever he was. Yeah, I remember that.
It's still up. It's May 18th, 2020. I'm looking at it right now.
What about the comments on that?
What about Tiger Woods? He's got to be a billionaire.
Well, I want to talk about this Elon thing one more time. Because here's the thing, right? There's a lot of guys are watching us right now that go around and say that they're red pill. And they're fucking fat. They haven't had sex in the longest time. They don't have their finances sorted out. And these are all part of being successful with women, right? Money, muscles, game, frame. And so I think he's like just one of these red pill masturbators too. Just like he, like kind of like what Ryan said, like he's said like, oh yeah, take the red pill. He thinks he is. But I mean, he's not, right? Let's be honest. He would not be with that creature if he was, let alone putting a baby in her.
Search for Elon Musk plus Neil Strauss Rolling Stone interview, and then read that article, and you tell me if you think that he's truly unplugging red pill. Rollo made a good point about Tiger Woods. So Tiger Woods, he cheated on his Swedish bikini model wife, X number of times.
He did the right thing, and then he did the wrong thing.
Yeah. So talk about that, Rollo, because that's an interesting.
Well, I mean, let's just. I mean, remember when Chris Rock was doing his bit about Tiger Woods? He goes, "Tiger Woods just figured out that he's Tiger Woods, right?" He got to the point where he's like, "I can have porn stars, I can have escorts, I can have any chick I want. I'm Tiger friggin' Woods," right? And of course, he'd already made prior to him discovering that he's suddenly Tiger Woods, because when he got with his Swedish bikini model, I think he had at least one Masters under his belt, maybe two. He hadn't won 5 Masters or whatever he's got right now, but he wasn't worth quite what he was worth when all of that went down. But again, the reason why that joke is funny, or that Chris Rock bit is funny, is because we realize that here's the guy who had made. I'm not saying he didn't. He did the right thing. I mean, I'm not trying to judge him or anything like that, but I'm just saying the mechanics of it. If you follow the timeline there, he came from a family where it's like, he wanted to have a good looking wife, and he wanted to have children. He presented himself as this very upstanding, kind of wholesome, almost like Bill Cosby kind of like wholesome guy. And then suddenly he's out at Blue Martinis in Florida, knocking it out with porn stars and everything else. And now he's he has to seek redemption from the collective, the collective of women, and go to like a sex addict. He said it's a problem. He's a sex addict, right?
Yeah,
no,
that's right.
Just
yeah,
a dude who figured out his own value.
Counseling or something for that, like he went to sex addiction counseling.
Well, I think that's a business choice that he made there. I don't think he believes any of this shit.
That's all brand, and then it blows over, and he goes back to doing whatever he wants to do. He went
through what I call. I don't think he got red pilled, but he went through what I call, who's eating crackers.
Oh, that's me.
He went through what I call the red pill gluttony phase, right? And that's when you figure out the red
Yeah.
pill and you're like, oh my god, I can fuck a lot of girls, and then you go like on the rampage, you go and like fuck like 7-8 girls in 1 week, and you just like how many can I get to 24 hours, and you just like redline your body and your sexual health just to like just satisfy this sexual thirst that's been building up your entire life. I mean, think about it too, like how many guys are so sexually thirsty and they actually enable themselves to like figure out how to go on dates, how to consistently have sex with girls, and then how to consistently keep them around and put them to work to do shit for you, scratch your head, rub your back, clean your house, clean up your dog shit. I mean, dude, that's how would you not go nuts on that?
In my first book, there is a chapter in there called The Threat. And I lead off with a quote in there that says, there's nothing that is more simultaneously threatening yet simultaneously arousing for women than a man who understands his own value to women. And Tiger Woods is a perfect example of the threat. And this goes back to what John was saying, is why do women want to give you the extra scoop of rice, right? Why do they want to fatten you up? Why do they want to like ensure their investment in you by like making you less attractive or making you comfortable or making you sort of like get off of your game and ease up on your focus? The reason for that is because women are threatened by a guy who is so high value that he goes, you know what? Maybe I don't need that chick. Maybe I could I do better? Suddenly it's the hypergamous doubt. Could I do better than that chick? I'm Tiger Woods suddenly, and I can get any chick that I want to. Ethics aside, the guy can make that realization and then decide what it is that he wants to do as a result of that. But the mechanics, the dynamic under that is that when a guy realizes how much he is worth, how much his value is towards women, and he uses that and leverages that in his life, that's when women either want to fatten you up, like John was saying, or they want to try to bring you down. They'll go, oh, I guess you're compensating for your little wiener, right? Or I guess they'll try to find some way to knock you down a few spaces so you don't think so much about yourself, so that they can come in there and suddenly be the one who could tame you.
You know what the biggest red pill is with that whole Tiger Woods thing is the only reason why that was a problem was because he got caught. If he never, because he got caught and she was embarrassed, that's when it became a problem. As long as, he never got caught and it never became public and there was never any issue with it, it wouldn't have been a problem, in that mirror. She would have probably just continued to look the other way. It's an interesting thing, right? But I mean, like, he could have handled it differently, just said, yeah, okay, so.
Well, it's like one of the reasons why women get so upset about the idea of trophy wives, is because they are essentially trading their personal capital, right? The value that they have in their beauty and their sexuality and their femininity. And they go, you know what? I'm going to put all of my eggs in this one basket in this one guy. He's high value. It looks like he's going to be even more high value, or he has potential to be the winner that women wait at the finish line to bang, Rich. Like, they wait for that. Not all women can be the bikini model at the checkered flag. There's a lot of women who have to say, you know what, this guy's a good bet. They're trying to like bet on whether this dude's gonna amount to something. And here's the thing: is there's two fears that come with that. One is she's going to invest all of her beauty and her 18 to 28 years in one guy who later on either turns into an alcoholic loser and he amounts to zip, or the guy exceeds her expectations, and the guy makes so much money, makes a partner in the law firm, he's a surgeon, he makes whatever, he becomes a millionaire or whatever, and then he decides that even though she's been with him for all that time, he's going to go bang his hot blonde secretary with the big boobs and the blue eyes. That's the trophy model fear of that. And as John was saying, that's when women will go and try to fatten you up or try to find ways to limit your ambition. And fattening you up is one way. The other way is making you, it's like gaslighting you, making you question your own motives about your focus, about your passion, about your ambition. Do you really need to do that? Why are you compensating for? You have a responsibility to the family and me and blah, 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 right? How many guys have heard that along the way to making, whatever it is that's going to make them a success?
And that's the difference between the plugged and the unplugged. Is the unplugged will continue on their purpose, on their path, and disregard that betatization process that she's through, because they acknowledge it and they see it. It's like, that's a distinction that people don't seem to understand. It's like, oh, he's got so much money, he's way more alpha than you. It's like, that's not the point. That's not what we're talking about.
But it's incredibly counterintuitive, isn't it, though? Because obviously they also want the guy to actually be successful. So
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, they shoot themselves in the
crazy.
foot.
It's like the snake eating its own tail. Like they're trying to fucking like sabotage the entire relationship at the end of the day.
They want a high value guy, but the things that make him high value also make him desirable by other women, and also makes her have to perform to be up to that guy's conditions.
Serves you right for letting her run the show then.
High powered super chat. Thanks, dude. He says the super creepy is making me think what is going on at Blizzard. I'm assuming that's Blizzard, the gaming company.
Yeah.
All of these nerds start making good money and hire their and nerd friends and women, and they're still creeps and expect female attention at a law suite. What is going on at Blizzard exactly? I haven't heard anything.
Some Me Too shit. I didn't really follow it too much.
No,
There's got some poon, and a whole bunch of reporters hit on the story. Yeah.
It's Blizzard makes World of Warcraft, and they make Diablo, and they make Overwatch 2, I believe, and some other
Diablo.
Is that what they made? Diablo, right?
Diablo,
whatever.
California.
Go back to your phonograph stories, Rolo.
Isn't that a car?
Hey, Rolo, is it ZX7 or is it ZX7?
I don't know.
ZX? What is that?
Canadian or American Zeds.
Yeah. So anyways, but it's a software company, and the guy's right. What happened is it started out as a really great company, and then suddenly you get all these wokies in there, and you get the SJWs, and they bring in women, and it was male space that was invaded by, well, I shouldn't even say invaded. It was like women were invited into it. Yep. And now they're coming apart at the seams because of harassment and everything else. But he's not wrong in the sense that like these guys want to go. You can't take the beta out of the nerd, right? It's like the guy. You give a nerd a lot of money, he's still going to be blue pill, and to tell him anything different is like pulling teeth, right? Like I said, it's dirty work, and they have to be at a point of crisis. They have to be at a point of trauma before you can actually make that connect. They have to be getting a divorce. They have to be getting, breaking up with their soulmate or whatever for them to actually listen to it. Because up until that point, they will resist you, and they will fight you, and they will claw your eyes out if you say anything bad about womankind. Because any woman in earshot who could hear that will be associated with him, and won't have anything to do with him, because he doesn't understand what Troy was saying a minute here and John was. They don't understand the mystery of woman. Right? They haven't figured that out. They haven't got to the point where it's just like, okay, I can go out and reliably get laid if I want to go out and get laid.
It's so amazing to me that these guys have so much power and influence, and they've accumulated so much wealth, and it's just like they're so unwilling to see the code of the matrix for what it is. It's just shocking to me that they can figure that out, but they can't figure this out.
Let me tag one more thing on there, because this is the second point I wanted to get to today. Is I have worked with a lot of guys who, like I said, very wealthy guys, and I've had guys that I've counseled that are like in their 60s and 70s, somewhere around there. And the one guy I'm thinking of is, I'm just going to call him Bernie, because I don't remember his like full name, but he was like about 70 some odd years old, very wealthy. And he read my book. He came to me through you, Rich, and started reading my book and everything else. And he started hitting me up and asking me questions. And this is a guy who has lived the majority of his life already, and has been blue pill for all of it, but had made a lot of money, and was insulated from his understanding the nature of women, or understanding the nature of men and everything. He lived in he was getting a divorce at that time. He'd been in a sexless marriage for about 30 some odd years of that marriage. And his wife and his daughters were trying to take him to the cleaner as a result, because they wanted his business. They wanted to oust him. He'd made a lot of bad decisions based on what amounted to him being very blue pill and not understanding, and still being conditioned and trying to quote unquote do the right thing. And he's looking back on his life going, oh my God, I made that decision when I was 20. I made that decision when I was 35. I made that decision when I was 40, something like that. And they all go back to an uneducated understanding of the sexual marketplace, of women's natures, have zero understanding of game. But those decisions that were based on that blue pill understanding, he is now the product at 70 some odd years old of those decisions. And that is a really freaking tough place to be. Most guys who are older guys will never unplug, because it will force them to face the fact that their life is the product of making the bad decisions that they believed on false data, on old order ideals, on old order thinking, when it comes to, and so now they're like, what do I do? I might have like a good 10 or maybe another 10 years. What do I do? Where do I go from here? That's why those guys tend to be
the whole
more,
like old dogs, new tricks problem. You think?
it is tough, man. It is tough. I mean, unless they've got the money and the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm just going to live out the rest of my days in the best way that I possibly can. Unless they have that kind of optimism to them, these are the guys that will off themselves. And you want to know why the demographic for suicide amongst men is between 45 and 65 years old is because they make that connection. They make that connection right about there, and they get zeroed out and they go, I can either rebuild myself in this red pill paradigm or whatever. I can rebuild myself, or I can off myself. And it seems like a better deal to simply just hit the undo button or whatever, and just put a gun in their mouths, right? That's the demographic, and those are the guys I'm trying to reach, but they're really, really hard to reach.
I have a hard time feeling sorry for them. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah,
like you've got nothing but time and resources, and they refuse to learn. And I get it; it's emotional.
But maybe it was never presented to them, though, Ryan.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but that's the point. You shouldn't have to fight them so hard for them to fix their lives. You know what I mean? If they're not going to invest, why would I invest? That's kind of my approach to it.
Yeah, there's a real problem with that. You're right. I mean, a lot of these guys come.
Most of them don't even come. Most of them won't even come for help. They're like I said, they're insulated, and it's too difficult to make that. Like what do they say in the Matrix? Like after a certain age, they don't unplug you from the Matrix because the mind can't handle it. That's I don't know where they got that analogy, but it's absolutely true.
It's not hard. If they want to find Rollo Tomassi or Rich Cooper, you guys are very easy to find. So if they can't find you, it's
because they don't.
Well, I mean, there's guys that have like found us, Ryan. Like there's guys that have like watched all of the videos, they've read the books, then they book you for private consults. Like I remember working with a few guys for over 8 to 10 months probably, and it's like by the end of it they understand it, like they get it all,
but they don't have it to action.
Yeah, they don't apply it. They don't.
I send them on their way, man. What do you say, Rollo? Last rites, triage.
It's like when you get like cell phone, it's like, hey, we have a software update for you, and then all you have to do is like remove the old software, the old belief system, and update it with a new one, and then everything functions in the new world order. Mm-hmm. They see that software update, but they don't update the belief system to want to operate in that new paradigm shift, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's frustrating. I've had that. I have a wealthy client. You actually referenced him to me, and he said all the right things, and it just turned into the end of a really expensive psychology session where he bitches about his problems, and I have to tell him everything's okay. And at that point, I was
like, the guy from Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what most people want. They just want a shoulder to cry on. I think that's why they get hookers that do the girlfriend experience. They just want to be nuzzled like it's mom. And I know it sounds tragic, but I'm like, but picture this. Like, why would you waste? Like, Rollo, you can help people. Rich, you can help people. John, you can help people. It's a skill. There's 1 billion guys out there who need it, let's say, for example. Mm-hmm. How much mental energy are you going to spend on somebody who's fighting you on his own success? Because I find that insulting. It's like, first, you don't want to fix you. You want me to waste all my time not fixing you. When there is some other asshole out there who's really close to starting a shotgun who would be amenable to it. Mm-hmm. So my thought is when I see these guys acting like this and they fight you on, it's like you said, you know what? I'm out of this Facebook group. It's not the room for me. Right. There is plenty enough guys out there who have earned some money and are willing to learn. And granted, we have to make 2 hours of content, but I have like a real disdain for spending this much mental energy on guys who are absolutely hell-bent on failing in as expensive a way as possible. It's like, fuck it, man. Put that money back in the economy. We'll try making it on our end. Thanks. Thank you, sir.
Well, at the end of the day, I suppose it does end up back in the economy, because when you give half your shit of billions to women, like Mackenzie Bezos took all of that money and she basically gave it away to like bullshit causes. So it ends up back in the economy somehow.
Oh.
Well, it's like I get this question all the time is like, Rollo, I read your book and it's amazing and my eyes are open and I really my brother or my dad or my cousin or my nephew, whatever, is going to make a really bad decision. I married this horrible bitch for him, and I want to unplug my friends from the Matrix. And it's like, God bless, vaya con Dios, I hope you can do it. But it's like the odds of you doing that is, like I said, our triage. You have to help the ones you can and read Last Rites to the Dying, because most guys don't want to be helped because they think they're doing the right thing. Because if they were to acknowledge the fact that they've been conditioned by a blue pill way of thinking, their understanding of women's nature, assuming there is even a human nature like to these guys, their basis of their belief sets when it comes to men and women is intimately locked into solving their reproductive problem. And if they don't believe that, then they're not going to get laid. They're not going to have babies. They're not going to have a wife. They're not going to have the soulmate that God or preordained from them since before birth or whatever. Like that's the level of like ego investment that you're up against. So the only way you get past that is when guys are at a point of crisis or at a point of trauma. And you're right, Ryan, it gets really exhausting because every guy that comes to me, comes to you, comes to Rich, comes to anybody for say, hey, help me out. I don't, how do I get my girlfriend back? Oh, I'm in a divorce. It's like, yeah, you're at a point of crisis. And that's all we hear is guys in crisis all the time.
Dude, those guys make me laugh. The ones that literally go
every day. It's great, man. Thanks, man. Thanks, Rollo. You don't hear those stories.
I love those guys. They're like, hey, I just went to Rollo. I went to Donovan. I went to Rich. I went to Troy. I went to, he basically ran the rounds and I'm having this issue. I'm like, well, that's funny. Did they tell you this? Yeah. Did they tell you this? Yeah. Did they tell you this? Yeah. So what do you need me for? Well, I just think, and I'm like, oh, you're shopping around to have somebody that'll fucking pat you on the head and tell you you're still a good alpha male. It's like, that's exactly why I stopped doing consults. I'm like, the money's not worth it, man. If I want to be somebody's whore, I at least want to get fucked, Well,
it's like Rich's show, like when he was doing Before the Train Wreck. These guys come in there and they're asking questions they already know the answer to. They already know. They just want to hear like an older guy like Rich say, no, you should do, this is the way you should have gone. What are you thinking? Smack you upside the head kind of thing. That's what they want. They already know what we're going to say. They just want permission to go, okay, well, I guess I better make that decision.
Yeah, I used to tell them, you have the official Ryan Stone married red pill certificate to go do whatever the fuck you were going to do anyway and fuck it up and learn the hard way.
Cult leader,
go for it, bro.
Blessing. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got this. Well, that's what they want. It's Catholic confessional. And I'm surprised how many guys got that. They all want the same things. It's tell me what I want to hear and like absolve me of my sins by berating me. They loved it when Donovan used to yell at them and call them an asshole and a cuck and all this stuff. They're like, yeah, treat me like a dirty whore. I fucked up. Now you're yelling at me. I'm not even joking. We used to have it in like the Reddit where guys would basically give you a dump of their life. And now please drop an F-bomb on me. Call me a bundle of sticks. And you realize like these guys don't want to fix anything. They want that Catholic absolution where it's like, I screwed up. You call me an asshole. Well, now I feel better about it. Now I can go back to fucking up. And then I'll come back again when I need to get yelled at again. And I'm just going, you guys really don't fundamentally understand what red pill means, do you? And if you're a billionaire doing that, like no sympathy. Go fuck yourself. I'll do it. What's the $10,000 an hour? You can tell me all about how great a man you are for $10,000 an hour. So far, no takers.
You can go to John Sunday's show and have confessional.
Oh, I know for a fact. I see John when he's on a rant. I know there's a lot of super chats that go in there because they're like, I want this guy in Japan to yell at me for 20 minutes. Please, sir.
No, you should. You should listen, sir. You should listen in on Friday. How many guys call me?
Oh yeah,
for advice, and then just argue with me on the phone. And it's like,
oh, I know.
What do I know? I'm just a self-made millionaire, alpha, whatever the hell you want to label me as. Have sex with a lot of girls. They all know about each other. What do I know?
What do they usually argue with you about? Is it about their beliefs?
Whatever delusion they want to keep.
Yeah. Yeah, I find the same thing on my show when I get call-ins. I get a lot of that still, too.
Yeah, they know who you guys are. They know what you're talking about. They've seen whatever receipts they require that they would call about. Yeah. At this point, why argue? You came to me. Fuck off.
Yeah. Rich, let me ask you, Rich, to this because I get this occasionally too. Is like clearly you deal with a different caliber of clients when it comes to counseling and stuff like that. What happens? Like, what happens when a guy comes up to you and you can tell maybe he's a billionaire, maybe he's not a billionaire, maybe he's very wealthy. Let's just say. What are they usually asking you? Like, do you have guys that hit you up that you can say, okay, this guy is very wealthy and he's having a problem with women? Like, what is the most common problem that they have when they seek out your counseling?
Plugged in lies. They just subscribe to a certain period of time of their life to plugged in lies that aren't serving them. And you're like, okay, well, let's talk about these beliefs and why they're not getting you the results that you want. And here's what works better if you want to adopt it. And that's really what it is. I mean, it's like there's some intricacies because some of them have, stuff going on in their business or in their entrepreneurial venture. They might be doing something at a professional tier that, they make like $1 million or $2 million a year. Like I talk to a lot of really, really, rich guys, but they all still, subscribe to a lot of the same bullshit, right? Like, well, she told me that she built a shrine and prayed to God every day. So why was she fucking other guys, behind my back? And it's like, okay, let's talk about the basics of female nature, shall we?
Yeah, where to start?
I see what I get primarily. I get that occasionally, but from the guys who tend to be a little bit more affluent, let's just say, it's usually regrets for not having figured this stuff out sooner and having more sex when they were younger, or figuring out like, oh, I got married too soon. I made these really, I wanted kids. I did
find
the
a lot
right
of these guys
thing.
are like fine with like a notch count of 4. Like they're totally fine with a notch count of 4 and being 39. But they're like, hey, I got this chick who's like 34 and she's got baby rabies and I'm thinking about moving her in. I've only known her for 6 months, but she smashed 50 guys. Like, what do you think about my bright idea, right? Like, I don't have too many guys that have regret for what they've done with their past. They seem to just surrender to it.
Yeah, or they'll rationalize why they did what they did.
Yeah, it's like, it's fine. I'm a one woman kind of guy. It doesn't matter that she's had like 50 dicks run through her, sort of thing, and she's at the end of her fucking reproductive life, and she wants babies right now in 6 months.
When I was doing that chapter on, I think it was in book 2, I was doing the chapter on midlife crises. Like that's a common thing that I think that a lot of guys think that they're experiencing, and they think that they're experiencing it in terms of like, say, a female like primary social convention, right? They go, all guys go through a midlife crisis when they're like hit 40 and they want to go buy a sports car and they want to, get with the young chippies or something like that. I'm like, no, that's not what it is. A midlife crisis is really your midlife epiphany. If you've done well for yourself and you've maximized your potential and you're making money and you're hitting your stride when you're 36, 37, 38 years old, and you go, damn, I could have been more sexually selective at 36 than when I was, and I got married at 28 or 29, right?
I got a story for you.
And so what they're doing is, like I said about the threat, like those guys are coming into the awareness of their own value to women because now they're at the top of their game. They're at their peak sexual market value, but they made their decision to commit and to get into a monogamous relationship or get into marriage or whatever it was prior to them realizing that. And yeah, at that point they go, damn, my life that could have been. And you mix that in with like the rational male or whatever, and red pill, whatever, they become more aware of that. That's a tough pill for them to swallow. Sorry, go ahead, John.
No. I mean, it's great follow up here. So today we were filming the escalation modules for Pandemic Pickup, right? And we had 2 girls that were scheduled to come through, and one was Chinese, 21. Both were smoke shows, and then the other one, which is a little bit older, I think she's like 26 or something, and she canceled this morning. She was like just typical woman being irresponsible. So the 21-year-old chick came over, and it was just me, 35 years old, pretty much approaching more of my prime. Mac the Day Gamer, also a good-looking guy, my business partner, 33, also on the upward tick as well. And so my girl didn't show up, so I couldn't I couldn't do my escalation scenes. And the 21-year-old was just so happy to be around us, right? She's like, I can kiss you and make out with you too on the camera. It's no problem. Like this was her idea. And Mac had already banged her, and he's like, oh, whatever, take it. Like, let's just make the damn course. And it was just so funny just to see how enthusiastic and happy she was just to be around guys like us. I tried to give her like $50 for her taxi ride home. I was like, oh, just take this to get home. She lives a little bit far. And then she was like, no, I don't want to take the money. I just had such a good time. You guys are so cool. I want to hang out with you again. And when you have that constantly coming at you, and then you got some fucking 34-year-old grandma who's like, hey, it's been 6 months. You're like, no, so what? Like that's your reproductive mismanagement, not me. Your body, your choice, right? And my body, my choice. And I'm not going to deal with this. But, it's like that Eddie Murphy script, right? Most guys say they just want one girl. You know why? Because most guys are starving for a girl. They're starving. When you have access to multiple chicks and you're like, damn, well, I love the way this girl has a great vagina. This girl has great tits. This girl cooks well. Sex is okay, but she's really good cook. She comes over, she cleans everything. You're like, what do I do? Like, how do I settle down with one? And then you kind of just get dragged along and just in this having like this omni girlfriend, my Chinese girl does this, and like my Japanese girl does this, and my Korean girl does this. So that's a little bit harder. And that also tying back to today's subject, that kind of like pulls your attention in 4 or 5 different directions. Rich yells at me all the time. He's like, stop with all the girls and get richer and do more of your life. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, like, I'm like having fun. I'm dating.
Well, this is all very new to you still, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cash.
Well, the cash and the women all at the same time. Like I remember talking to you a couple of years ago, and you were a total nerd, man.
No way, dude. I've been pimping forever, bro. I've been pimping since I was 18.
Pimping maybe, but the cash is new to you, yeah.
The cash is definitely new. The cash is definitely new. But the bras, I've been consistent.
Is that a recording of Troy laughing?
I think he just lagged out again. He's having a little moment.
Oh, okay.
He's on Russian internet.
He's on Russian. Yeah, but that's interesting because that's a combination. I keep stressing with the guys in Fresh and Fit is like too much, too young, too fast. And it's like if you give guys all of that all at once and they don't understand
with dynamite,
exactly, it's going to blow up in your face. And that's why I keep saying it's like when guys say, oh, don't just focus on your career, just focus on you, man. It's very nebulous, right? It's like whatever that ends up being, focus on you, man. I was like, well. Okay, and I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but it's also good for you to understand women's nature. It's also good for you to be in the game. It's also good for you to be, interacting, being social, learning the social skills, learning game skills, and everything else. So if for no other reason you say, well, I'm never going to get married, great, fine. But guess what? Once you get to that level of success that you are bound and determined to get to, you become a mark. That's when the girls want to, suddenly they want to be your mom. Suddenly they want to have porn star sex with you. Suddenly they want to be, dirty Lauren Sanchez, right?
Yeah.
Troy, learn it the hard way.
Connection working?
I think so. Yeah. Sorry, I keep lagging out here. The internet's a little bit freaky.
I blame Putin.
Yeah, I can't comment. But if I lag out again, if I don't see you guys, I'll say goodbye because it's.
Yeah, in the
sneezed
90s, this would make sense. If you were complaining about this in the 90s, if you're complaining about this in the 2000s, 2021, whatever COVID year we're in right now, if you're still in your seduction prison, you kind of do it on purpose.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
Choice.
True.
It's not hard to find a rational male. Dude,
there.
there's dudes on the dark continent right now that have a literal cult of Rolo. You look it up.
Kenya.
Was it Nigeria and Kenya? South Africa actually has a decent rhinestone following. I'm like, how in the hell did this happen?
Kenyan brothers.
If some dude in some small Kenyan town in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, on the middle of the buttfuck continent nowhere, can somehow hear of Rollo Tomasi and learn how to run some game, what excuse does the guy with the jet have?
They want me to send them a pallet of my books because they can't get it there from Amazon for whatever. Ship it to us. We'll pay for the shipping.
You
Dude,
can do that through
funny.
a website, by the way, called Book Depository, and they're
really?
a brokerage. Yeah. So if somebody says, I live in this obscure country and I can't get your book off Amazon, give them a link to bookdepository.com and they'll ship your book through Amazon for them.
Just like a UN care package where it's fucking airdropped in.
Yeah.
The parachute. A bunch of African children are running around to grab pieces and run off.
But
I got too much imagination, man.
Anyway, long story short, it's a freaking choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Listen, a lot of these dudes, right? It's 2 parts. A lot of these dudes have unresolved trauma because there's a lot of broken homes in America. Rich, Rollo, you guys were normal. And Troy, you as well. You guys were pretty blessed to get raised in a normal household. Your dad wasn't beating your mom with a frying pan and shit. And they weren't beating you with the frying pan. Rich, I know you had the traumatic situation that was a complete accident, but there are parents out there that are intentionally hurting their the men in their family. Some guy called into my show on Friday, and he told me he was consistently raped by his brother over and over and over, and he was dealing with this trauma in his life. And when you have all these heavy mental baggage, emotional abuse, physical abuse, this is way more common in America than most people want to admit. That is a big part of why they have mental problems and success problems with women. And if you don't resolve that, it doesn't matter if you're on TRT, doesn't matter if you only eat protein and you have a gym membership. You'll figure out a way to sabotage it because your subconscious and your mind is broken, And I think that's one thing that we kind of overlook. I talk about it a lot on my channel because I was a victim of that. You know, I was beaten, emotionally abused, you know, never met my dad, grew up abject poverty, all that crap. And I'm not saying it's an excuse, but I'm saying it was a definite, I had to claw my way out of poverty to be where I am now. And I have an above average tenacity, an above average will to do so. A lot of people, look, man, you got to look at the bell curve, man. A lot of people are fucking mouth breathers. They're just fucking, you know, there's a reason why a lot of these women look like Walmart golems all over America, because they've been left to their own devices. And now here we are dealing with it in 2021 after 20 years of failed parenting. You know, we're starting to see the tail end of it surface. So that's a big part of it as well, in my opinion. Like, a lot of guys just like the system is broken. I'm not giving them excuses, but I'm definitely saying that's part of it. And that's definitely why America, Canada is circling the drain faster than the other Western countries. UK is a close third.
Oh, it's buddy, they're all together. All right, so it's time to get this thing wrapped up. Let everybody know what you're up to, Rolo, and then we'll kind of do a round.
Cool. I'll put this link in the chat here in just a second. But I just released the Audible version of Religion, my 4th book, and so it's now up and available. So that's the big news. Like I said, it was going to be out this month, so here it is. And I'm getting a lot of good positive reviews on it right now. I got a new reader, this guy Trey, and it seems to be taking off. So go pick that up on Audible right now. You can just go look it up on Audible, and you just The Rational Male Religion, and you'll find it. I'll put a link in the browser in the chat in a second.
And I actually downloaded that this morning, and I've been listening to it on the drive.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what,
narrator's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, you like him? Trey's a good dude, and he's also part of Red Pill community too. So yeah, so that's one of the reasons I chose him. And then I will be on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I am probably going to do something on Brittany Renner. That was actually one thing I wanted to talk about here today too. Is if you look at a guy like PJ Washington and getting involved with a woman like Brittany Renner, here's a guy, you want to talk about a guy who, you know, focused on his game, literally, you know, focused on his success and making millions of dollars as an NBA player, and got finessed by Brittany Renner, who was above board the whole time with it. So I'll probably be talking about that tomorrow, but it's very relative to what we've been talking about today. Is like, again, money, fame, status, athleticism is no insurance policy against a blue pill way of thinking. So there you go.
All right, and I got some super chats there. We'll get to that before we totally wrap it up. Brian, go ahead.
Views are down, so I had to do another red pilled coffee, another red meat.
Oh,
showed it to you guys.
What do I got this time? You should just hit me up next time. I'll come on your show, Ryan.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not going to be a show. It's a pre-recorded one. I was like, if you want to do it as a show, I'll come on talk about it. Dude, it's awesome. It's this
shit about people.
Yeah, it's this TikTok chick going viral because a guy really screwed up the date with her, and then she put him on blast to the internet. And now all the MGTOWs are coming out of the thing. Like, start acting like a human being. And she's like, no, I need clout. And I thought, what a wonderful example of like red pilled lessons. There's laws of power in it. There's the Jumbotron rule from Royce in it. And what the hey, let's make it fun. So it's a lot like the last one with that Vancouver chick with the OnlyFans account. You guys will enjoy it. I'm going to hate myself for releasing it either Sunday or Tuesday. I'm not sure yet. It'll be fun. That's all I got.
Johnny boy.
Red meat.
I'm going to teach you guys how to get laid. You need it. Pandemicpickup.com, September 30th. We are coming out with the Delta variant, the updated version of Pandemic Pickup. You're going to get concentrated online game modules, concentrated day game modules. We have hired a model. We have 2 models, and we're showing you exactly how to escalate with a girl when you're in the bedroom, so you're completely protected legally. You don't have to deal with any troubles of, you know, people coming after you with pitchforks and torches and all that. Also, you get 5 webinars starting on October 6th, where we're going to do an analysis of how you look, get you on a plan to make you hot, dude, you know, money, muscles, game, frame. And then there will be one session where I'm going to have a girl live with me. I'm going to show you exactly how to escalate and take off her bra, do everything. This is going to be private on Zoom. And then there also is going to be a Telegram chat available for all the members until the end of the year. It starts on September 30th. So you need to go to pandemicpickup.com right now and get on the waiting list. Me and Mac the Day Gamer are going to handle this, and it's going to be really, really good.
Troy, what's shaking, bro?
I got a bunch of new videos going up on my channel, pre-recorded, scripted videos talking about dating, the sexual marketplace, strategies for dating, flirtation, and also some existential sort of chinwags as well. So, so check those out. They've had a really good response so far. And aside from that, if you want to read my work about dating, the sexual marketplace, how to get laid, all of that good stuff, grab Renegade Dating Blueprint, which is my collection of 11 books on those subjects. Go to my YouTube channel, just search Troy Francis, link under any video. You'll be able to get the book collection. So go there. Oh, the other thing as well is myself and James Tusk are doing a boot camp training in Kiev from the 30th of September to the 3rd of October. So if you can get there and you're interested in coming along and doing some live in-field day game training, then drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. That's troy@realtroyfrancis.com. We've only got a couple of spaces, but it's going to be awesome. And the girls in Ukraine, women in Ukraine, some of the most beautiful on the planet. So if there's any chance of you getting over there at all, I would highly recommend that you do so. It's going to be 4 days worth of very intensive training with feedback, etc., etc.
All right. And before we wrap up and get to the super chats, books available on Amazon. Grab it. Also, my supplement line, which doesn't really show on this camera because the angle, just over my shoulder. It's been live for a couple of weeks. There were some bugs that we had to work out of the fulfillment center, everything. But if you go to this link below, the unpluggedalpha.com, you can use coupon code alpha10, get 10% off your first order checkout. And there's some really good products there. Hope you guys have been enjoying them. I've seen a whole bunch of positive feedback on it. Again, there's some bugs that we got to work out with fulfillment because one center does one thing, another center does the other, and it's like 3 out of 4 get shipped out, and people are like, "Well, where's the 4th one?" It's like it's coming. You know, if you have any problems, email me. The stuff is there on the site. And let me get these super chats there before we wrap up. We had Jay Shishta. I had a very hard time liking Ryan for a long time. That's okay. We all did. And fast forward, my peers and girls say that I like what I say Ryan's way. And when they are upset with me, I really don't feel a thing. Thank you. 2 R's. $10 book made me a jerk. Well done.
Lovable asshole, not a jerk.
Strawn says, can you talk about NoFap and porn? I've talked about this so much. Who wants to take this? Is it good? Is it bad?
That's November's episode.
Yeah. Caveman also used to masturbate. No. Who wants to take the no fat and porn thing? Because I'm so tired of talking about it.
Do you have anything better to do? If not, that's why you're jerking off.
Here.
There you go.
Here you go. Down. If you keep jerking off, you're going to break your dick. Literally.
Are you unvaccinated?
Yeah. There's literally nobody out there that like talks about NoFap and porn that has good access to beautiful women. So just
if you're unvaccinated, your sperm is worth way more now. So here's my thing is don't forget about NoFap and become an entrepreneur, a spermpreneur.
A fapping entrepreneur. NoFap.
Still such a popular topic, you know, like amongst men, but whatever. It is what it is. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next Saturday. Who's all hosting next Saturday? Rollo, you've got the schedule.
It's either me or John, whoever wants it. All John, right. you can do it.
Oh, I won't be in the studio. I'll be in a hot tub again.
All right, it'll be me. My turn.
Okay. So Rollo's channel next Saturday. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing one. Peace out.
See you.